Hi Sonoma County, it is Thursday, October 15th, and I'm still in Rome, Italy. Spent the morning at the President's Palace, the equivalent of the White House for us. It's actually 20 times the size of the White House, and it is an unbelievably beautiful building structure, and the artwork in there is pretty incredible to see, very ornate. It actually became the President's Palace, originally inhabited by the popes until about 1870, and then was transitioned to be the home of the President of Italy. And interesting, we spent the morning really learning about the role of the President versus the Prime Minister here in Italy, so great informational morning. And then something I'm really excited about is I got to spend the afternoon meeting with the FEDERVINI Association, which is the Italian Wine and Spirits Association, really focused on policy and legislation here that affects wine and spirits. And so had a great meeting with Ottavio Caggiano d'Azevedo and one of his staff members, Francesco Milarucci, and talked a lot about just sort of wine in Italy. And I think the thing that really resonated the most for me in my conversation is they talked about Italy being primarily and foremost a agriculture country, so that the wine industry here was really founded in agriculture. And I know that's something we know is near and dear to Sonoma County, that agriculture is really the heart of our wine industry and wine community there, and that it's evolved into being more actually having the wineries as well, but certainly got its start in agriculture. So just talked a little bit about what's going on in the Italian wine market. Obviously, their exports are up to the U.S., so we talked a little bit about that, and I know I've mentioned that in a previous video. But within the European Union, it was kind of interesting to learn that their biggest country that they export wine to is actually Germany, followed by I believe it was the UK was second for them in terms of where they send wine around Europe. They have a lot of really small growers here, so something we don't have as much and deal with as much in the U.S. is wine cooperatives, so kind of our equivalent to the bulk wine market, but these cooperatives actually buy the fruit and either produce a final product or sell the final product to other wineries. One thing that's interesting about FEDERVINI as an organization is that they represent about 250 wineries around Italy, but they actually have what they call standards for membership, or sort of membership protocols. So you can't just join FEDERVINI, you have to meet a set of sort of standards or requirements, so around kind of your family name and reputation, production level and size, quality, etc. And then if you are admitted to membership, then they represent you from sort of a regulatory point of view. So they're dealing similarly with what I learned in Brussels. They really are dealing with similar things around kind of most of Europe as we talk about TTIP and the trade and labeling. So those are the big issues here when you think about being able to export and import wine. And as they look at both the U.S. as a very critical market, which we know, but also China as a really critical market moving forward. So a lot of similarities there. I always like to dig into sort of the labor market, and what was interesting here is that they actually contract through what would be the equivalent of what I would think of as our USDA, sort of United States Department of Agriculture organization. So they contract through the Ag Council, the Agriculture Councils, on union work, and that's those contracts, even if you don't use union employees in your vineyards, it's those contracts that sort of regardless guide the practices for how you treat your employees in terms of heat and safety and pay and vineyard work. So even if you're not officially in a union but you work in a vineyard, those standards apply to you based on those kind of union negotiations. So an interesting sort of twist on kind of labor here. They also are dealing a lot with somewhat of a labor shortage. And we talked a lot about what's similar to us in Sonoma County, which is just sort of that succession. And as the new generation comes in and takes over the family farm, it used to be a given that if your family was in farming, you would stay on the family farm. And now it's really much more of a choice. And so as these next generation kids are taking over the family farm, they're really moving towards and looking at more innovation and more marketing and promotion, and sort of how do they take the business to the next level. So typical to what we're seeing at home. So again, as I say, so far I've learned, farmers are farmers, and the wine industry and community is very similar in a lot of ways around the world. I mean, we're very focused on agriculture being the primary, core and heart of the community, and then creating a high quality product from there. And so they are kind of they're in the middle of harvesting their red grapes here in Italy. So they finished harvesting for their sparkling. They've also finished their white grape for white wine making harvest. They said it's really a bumper crop. They were down about 30% last year in tonnage in Italy, and so this year they're up considerably versus last year, but we know how those numbers work in our own sort of good years and bad years, and so they're actually probably right around an average harvest, and they say the crop looks fantastic, so it's been really moderate, pretty perfect growing weather this vintage for them. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of great wines coming out of Italy, just like we will out of Sonoma County. So that's all I have for now. Hope you're all doing well. Tomorrow I head to Belgrade, Serbia, and while I'm there I'll be spending some time with one of the local sommeliers who will be taking me on a tour of a winery. So it should be interesting to see what the Serbian wine market's like. So that's all for now. Signing off from Rome, Italy, and look forward to chatting with you all from Belgrade.